So yes, and how do we take what we're already creating for our Sunday morning or whatever time worship is for you, and how do we expand that to be more community facing and to be rhythm flexible? So those are some of the basics, and I'm going to give you an example, give you some examples using my new Advent Christmas series, because we are producing that right now. We're going to launch it next week, and we are in that yes and phase of creating ideas to suggest to churches about what they could do with the material, with the theme itself, and how they could expand that in different times, places, spaces, in order to reach people where they are, not just on Sunday morning, right? So the gift of being present is what I'm doing. It's year B, lectionary. I'm featuring the music of my friend Mark Hayes, who is like this prolific, I mean, he has written thousands of things, composer, arranger, and Amy Oden. We're doing a small group study with Amy Oden, who wrote Right Here, Right Now. So the gift of being present is this double entendre, presence and presence, right? And so let me just play this little trailer, because it's going to get people right into the theme, and then we can kind of riff on that about how we might do this yes and thing. So here's the trailer. So you get the idea of the theme there. It's that sense of being present, and that's the best gift that we can give. And surely in these economic times, in these times when we feel stress from all different sides, that's a theme, perhaps some good news that we need to hear. And it came to me because in the scriptures in year B, all through, actually the Hebrew people are in Babylonian exile in many of the scriptures. The letters, the epistle letters, are written to people who are under political oppression, and the Gospels, right? So we still have the Roman occupation there. So in the midst of all this occupation, also be metaphorage, what is God says? I'm with you. I am with you. And then Emmanuel with you. That's how much God wants us to hear. I am with you. So some ideas, right? So sanctuary enhancing and yes and. So this is just kind of a mock-up of what, and I would imagine that a church would do all of these, but these are just kind of brainstorm ideas. But there's sanctuary worship and there's open house hours. So opening the sanctuary, which is usually decked out beautifully for the community, for people who won't even come on Sunday morning. So, the sanctuary is a special quality in Advent, adorned with our favorite trimmings. We've added one symbol for our theme this year, lots of presents, that invites us to consider the best gifts we can give as the gift of our presence and those who need it most. So come on Sundays if you can. See that permission giving language, saying, I see you. I know that you might not be able to come every Sunday, right? Come on Sundays if you can, or when you prefer the quiet and solitude, come worship with our weekly self-guided prayer stations. So you have open house hours in the sanctuary, and then you have something for people to do, or just sit there and get some peace and quiet. Hello. Our lighted gift of being present tree is a great place to take your Christmas card photos. So, planting little ideas about how you might, and then a little link there where the worship recordings are. So again, it's permission, it's saying, I see you, here's all the ways you can worship, and it doesn't have to be our Sunday worship at 10:30 a.m., right? A one-day retreat, right? So this multi-generational retreat, including age-appropriate groups, will jumpstart your meaningful journey to Christmas. We'll eat, worship, journal, talk, and create gift packages for area families in need. You'll go home with a devotional booklet for the rest of Advent to do at home. Yes, it's totally okay to put this day and Christmas Eve on your calendar as the way you participate with your church family this year. So again, permission giving around knowing that people won't be able to, or might not be able to come to every Advent service. Just saying that out loud. Right. And so at the retreat and, in the prayer stations in the sanctuary, you're taking what you've already created for the 4 Sundays of Advent, Christmas Eve and the Sunday after, that theme and the scriptures and the prayers you've already written, in this case, what we've written, and you're repackaging them, in other words, right? You're making a station for hope, peace, joy, love. You're creating something to do in this one-day Advent retreat that takes you through that, right? So a podcast, perhaps, right? So this verbiage, do you spend time listening to podcasts on your work commute or while walking the dog? This year, we're offering a podcast based on our theme, the gift of being present. If this is the best time for you to be settled, listen, and be inspired, give it a try. Just bookmark this page, open before you head out, and enjoy the sounds of Advent and Christmas from our musicians. So this is you're posting this after your worship, right? So you've got, or you're recording that for it, whatever works for you all. And be inspired by our interviews with our nonprofit partners that are such a gift to our community. We'll have ideas for you to get involved with the gift of your presence, right? So again, repackaged, same music your musicians are practicing, same whatevers, but in a package to meet people where they are on their commute. And that's going to be for a church that has a lot of commuters. That's not going to be for a church that doesn't have a lot of commuters.
Well, but someone in the chat talked about being a disabled person. Like, there is an accessibility element I see in what you're offering, particularly with the podcast. I mean, I think of members that I have who are not able to get out, or the Sunday morning is not a good time for them, but a podcast would reach them from that perspective. So
that's great. That's great. Another thing, we have started, and really in pandemic, because my staff and I were really trying to figure out how to make things accessible for lots of people. This is where a lot of we started creating more materials that were not just the scripts for Sunday morning. So we do small group studies now, we do devotional booklets, all this stuff. So for this series, we have the Amy Oden right here, right now. She writes about the practice of Christian mindfulness, right? So our featured resource this season is right here, right now. Did you know that Christianity has a strong tradition of the practice of mindfulness? Join with others for discussion and practice. It's easy in this short 4-week small group opportunity. Here we go. I'm going to change this now, on site or online. Thank you, Cheryl. Or simply get the book for your own study. Inspirational videos by the author included in our guide. And so Amy and I are recording these little 15-minute videos.
Oh, awesome.
That will start. So, it's another way. And some people are much more likely to read a book as their spiritual practice, even over coming to worship. It's just like, it's like the way they're wired for spirituality. So why not? And what we do in the small group study is that we pull prayers from that week, to open and close the study. Hello, easy, connects to worship. People who go to the study and don't ever come to the worship, they're still getting the prayers, right?
I'm so glad you're making that point, because sometimes people think if I add something, I have to do something completely original, completely new, when in fact, even if someone attends all of these things, participates in everything, one, it's okay to have things repeated.
Absolutely.
Because think about it, every time you read a scripture, you see something different, you hear something different. And if someone isn't entering those places, you haven't put an undue burden on yourself as a worship planner and spiritual leader.
That's
So
right. No, we're talking about repackaging what you've already put together.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Repetition is a great thing.
Mm-hmm.
So DIY devotionals, we've started creating those, right? And again, it's simply the stuff we've already put in the worship, but it has question prompts, that, to help people write. So it's just really, that's the only new thing we created with it is the question prompts for people who love to write, who like me, love to get up and journal at, 6 o'clock in the morning. That's not for everybody, but that's.
No, I'll do it at 9 though.
Okay. So it says these devotionals are based on our weekly worship. Even if you're coming to the sanctuary for Sunday worship each week, use this booklet to deepen your reflections during the week. If you can't come to worship one or more weeks, you'll be able to use this to light your own Advent candles at home and enter into the story of God's gift of presence, no matter when or where. Right? Then, this is, I am hoping that some churches who do this series for this year, will figure out how to hang some presents out on the front of their church. I think it looks so awesome.
Oh, I pastor a local congregation. We may have a challenge here.
I love
like,
it.
where did you come up with this idea?
Pinterest.
Yeah.
No, but it helps us to sort of enter in. Well, how is our church a gift in this community? Right? Put a big old bow on it.
Right.
So sign up to help decorate, so again, how many ways can we get people interested? And not that they're going to do everything, but different things for different folks. And then we're caroling on the steps. We'll have a photo op set up, so bring that sort of Christmas tree of presents outside and have a photo op place. We'll be handing out gift tags to people to say you are a gift, right? So how many different ways can that gospel good news get out there? This is what I call spiritual encounters of the casual kind. People are just walking down the street, right? Use those real estate boxes to put copies of your devotional journals in and let people take one. How are we interfacing and intersecting with the larger community? And then this is just an idea for a mini retreat. And that is just kind of a time of coming together to brainstorm about how we will be a presence in a special way in this time. So, it's going to be different for different communities. It could be, if you are in a port city, you might make gifts for people who are working the ships, on Christmas Eve and not with their families. You might be, every context is different, but every context holds a possibility.
Right.
What's the imaginal disc that's popping up? Right? Yeah. So variations on a theme, sanctuary enhancing, community facing, rhythm flexible. That's all these things that I've been, kind of, and the point is, those are some very concrete examples, but you can think of a ton of your own that's going to be right for your place. But the whole idea is to understand that hanging upside down and seeing something from a different perspective is actually a gift. Right. Because we'll see a new way to be in ministry. We'll see a new way to get that message out. And, as churches, if you're a church that is really struggling in terms of numbers and building and that kind of thing, what this does is to help sort of exercise our imagination muscles enough that we begin to think of opportunities of how we are going to be the church if it's not going to look like it has for the last 70 years.